So in today's video, I am going to discuss how to supervise a graduate student. Now, this is one of the most important tasks which a professor needs to do, and how he does this task will have a great impact on the success of his research lab and the success of his research career. So let's begin this topic. So I would say the first task in any such system is to recruit a good student. And this is particularly important because if you have selected a student who has various weaknesses and lacunas in his training, then the student is going to become a problem case for you, and you are probably going to spend a lot of your time dealing with counseling, dealing with social issues, humanistic issues, rather than the core research and technological issues which you are trying to solve. So that's number one criteria, is that select a good student. And again, I have put a video on this topic about how to select a good student. Now, if you have not selected a good student, in many ways you are doomed. So it's better to get a new student in place of this student and to tell the student to find a different supervisor if possible. Now let's start then. I would say in the first year of the training, you should put the student through several courses which will help him to perform his research. And this particular selection of courses should be charted out such that it grows over the first semester to the second semester, and it should include a mixture of courses which the student has already taken in the past in his UG program at some lower level, and some new courses which are going to be required in this particular master's or PhD program. So why this combination is useful is that it helps the student to get somewhat better grades, and also if the student has taken a course at a more elementary level at a different university or college, then doing this same coursework at a higher level in the graduate school will help the student become a much better researcher down the road. So this is something I have witnessed firsthand, because I took courses such as structural dynamics, composite structures, and so on at the UG level in the final year. And then when I went to graduate school in the US and I took these courses, those courses were at a completely different level, and the projects which were there in terms of computer programming were at a completely different level. And this combination of a background in terms of theory and problems, and then later application computers and project work, helped me to get a lot of expertise in these particular problems. Now, once these 2 semesters are over, you need to keep a close track on the grades which have come, because the grades provide feedback as to the performance of the student. So what I would do is I would leave the students to live their own life during the first year and just concentrate on their grades, and maybe talk to them every month just to make sure that they are doing well psychologically and they are settling down into the new campus or into the new university if they have come to the new university. Now, the key thing to keep in mind is if you see the student is getting C grades or below, then that's a very big red flag as far as graduate study is concerned, because in graduate study it is expected that you get A grades, and in a very few cases you may be permitted to get a B grade. And this is because in graduate study you typically take less courses than in UG program. So you may take 3 to 4 courses per semester, and it is expected that you perform very well at this level, because once you are a graduate student you must be a master of that subject, and it's not good if you are making mistakes in homework problems or in examinations, because then what degree of confidence can one have on the results you obtain in your simulation and experiments which you use to write the paper. So again, if you have got C grades in courses such as mechanics or fundamental courses in computer science, then it's very hard for a supervisor to really believe that you have the competence to do a master's and PhD in that discipline. So this is something you should watch out for in your students, and you should make sure that they do well in this particular situation. Now, of course, many universities have some kind of cutoff in terms of a minimum requirement as far as CGPA is concerned, and this is kept at 3 out of 4 or 3.5 out of 4, and in different cases these cutoffs are basically used to weed out the bad students right at this stage, because if they continue further it becomes progressively difficult for them to read the research literature, which can be very complicated in terms of mathematical difficulty and in terms of conceptual difficulty, and then do well in their career. So that's the first year, and the first year is basically coursework. Now let us presume the student has done very well here, and then he has come to the second year of the study. So the second year of the study should largely be used for creating a good research proposal, doing a literature survey on the whole field which you have pointed out to them, and then defending this research proposal in a comprehensive examination or a qualifying examinations. So some universities have a written examination as well as a defense of the proposal, and some may just have a combined defense of the proposal and an exam where there are asked various questions on this particular topic. So again, you need to prepare for this particular situation and make sure that the research proposal is very well written, has completely discussed the research in terms of the next 2 to 3 years, and has outlined this particular research. Now at the end of this particular second year, the student must become somewhat of an expert in the field and should be able to clearly defend his research proposal in front of a comprehensive examination board. Now when you come to the middle of the second year or the beginning of the third year, essentially the student can start doing the research, and this is the point when you start with a simple problem which is a fundamental problem in the research field, and then you try to publish one paper in this field. And here I would say one of the best tactics about motivating researchers or keeping in track with the students is to have meetings. And I personally like to have one meeting a week. My PhD supervisor used to have 3 meetings a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. I have a meeting on Wednesday at 3 p.m. So again, depending on your nature, you can set up the meetings, and this is very important that students have occasional meetings and they also interact between themselves. So many times some of the problems they encounter in terms of coding or in terms of formulations can be solved by help or comments from somebody else. So this is very important when the graduate students are concerned in a lab. Now what I would say is around the third year you should try to publish your first paper, then you should go on to your second paper, and then you should go on to your third paper. And essentially these papers should be outlined to some extent in your research proposal itself, and you need not write out that you are going to publish these papers, but in terms of different paragraphs as to what are the research problems, each of those paragraphs should essentially represent a possible paper. So if you have written 3 papers out of your thesis work, then you are ready for a PhD thesis, and if you have probably written 1 paper out of your work, then you are ready for a master's thesis. So that is something which I go by, and again these are minimal numbers which are quite acceptable to most places. Now once you have written 3 papers for your PhD thesis, I think you are ready to write your thesis, and it's very important that the PhD supervisor should not expect too much work out of the student and should let the student graduate. And this is particularly important because research is a process which never ends and it can go on and on. So you need to keep in mind that the student also has a life to lead, and therefore you should permit him to graduate and go on to probably do a postdoc or to get a job, and then take a next student for pursuing further problems which are outlined as future research work by the old student. So now let me talk about some of the personal issues which you need to keep in mind when supervising student. One of the things is that whatever you say or talk, the students actually see how you act. So this is a general philosophy of leadership, is that people first find a leader, then they follow this leader, and it's not that they are necessarily finding the message first. So keep in mind that you need to seem to be a serious person. Do not be very casual. Try to live up to the expectations of a professor. Be completely committed to research and study. Do not waste your time. Be very productive. Have a good work culture. So all these parameters will be followed by your students. So if you are weak in any one of these departments, the students are also going to become weak in these departments, and also they are going to disrespect you after some time. Now on top of this, it is very important to have a good sense of morality and proper behavior in terms of your research. So again, that is something which the students take from you. So again, as far as publishing papers is concerned, as far as plagiarism is concerned, all these issues, it is your responsibility to make sure that the students know what is plagiarism, why they should not do it, how they should do experiments, how they should report all negative results, and so on. So again, one should not pressurize the students too much to just produce results, to write papers, because that may be the source of negative behaviors on their part. Now, one more issue is that don't try to sabotage good students, because I have seen some professors doing that. Is that if they have a very good student, they keep the student as their pet and tell them to publish more and more papers, and the student could probably have graduated in 3 years, and they keep them for 6 or 7 years and extract as many papers out of them as possible. So this is something which is not a good thing to do, and try not to do that as far as possible. Now, there should be some competition present in the lab to motivate the different students, but this competition should not become too much, because if there is too much competition in the lab in terms of somebody has published 5 papers and this person is looking down on somebody who has not got a single paper published, this may lead to a toxic work culture in the lab, and it may also lead to students getting into mental health problems and depression. So again, you need to guard against praising one student too much at the expense of somebody else. So this is something which you need to balance out. And the second thing to keep in mind is that there are some situations where a student's work culture and personality may not gel with you, and in this case it is not a good idea to be very harsh with the student and to lose your temper and to create different type of problems, because all these have a negative impact on terms of the mental health of not only the student but also on the supervisor. In these cases, it is a good idea to talk to the department chair or the dean and to smoothen a transition of the student to a different professor with whom he or she may have a better relationship and a better wavelength match. So this kind of transition can often help a situation from becoming toxic and result in a situation where some bad possibility can be prevented as far as the student is concerned. So again, these are some of the points I had for you in terms of how to supervise a PhD student, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much, and stay tuned to my channel.